aesthetics, the devil's kind of in the details. Sometimes it's as simple as, you know, the base of the home, shutters or appropriate materials. Houses don't need to look exactly alike, but, you know, fitting into mature neighborhoods and being attractive is important. And we need to focus our attention on sites that have real opportunity. There are a number of sites in the surrounding of Central City that are ripe for redevelopment. New housing, vacant lots, parking lots in the center square neighborhoods, vacant lots downtown, the Taylor Field site, the yards. There's a lot of talk, but still no action. We need to coordinate development intentions in the Central City, kind of in that area. Pick a site and test it with the market. And if the market can't bear it right now, then it's a long-term plan. I mean, anything that we're talking about is when it comes to infill housing is going to happen over the next 5 to 20 years. This is not overnight. We're not going to flood the market by any stretch of the means, but builders are the best. They're the subject matter experts on this, and they should be consulted and provide advice and advisory to the city to determine what's best to achieve that 30% that we're looking for. We need to understand what people are looking for and incent it if we really want it. We need to also respect people's choices and learn why they're not choosing infill housing, to reach out and find what we can do better and differently to make infill housing more attractive for people to select it. We could direct some housing incentive dollars to incent it as an option, potentially. And the city owns several sites that we could take the lead to facilitate new housing. That includes the yards. Whether that's appropriate or not would be determined with the business groups in the downtown bid, the warehouse bid, and into the Taylor Field site. And again, if you're going to subject matter experts all the time, you're going to get the best answers. The underutilized land study identified sites with potential, but the city has not followed through or up on doing anything with it to activate those sites. So the short answer is, I actually really believe in infill housing. I believe our downtown and our central city area needs infill housing. The more residents we have there, the better it is for infrastructure rejuvenation. It's better, collect more property taxes. It's a revenue stream, but it adds to the vibrancy of our downtown as well if we get into that central area. Our city every city is judged by its downtown, and to create vibrancy downtown is incredibly important. It increases safety for everyone in the neighborhood. I'm going to look for another question right now. They're going to help me out. And then, okay. Stance on building in Wascana Park. This one is, everybody knows that Wascana Park is the jewel of our city. It is spectacular. And it needs to be protected. I think the city needs, more than anything, public engagement. Wascana Park is governed by the Capital Commission. The city of Regina has 2 seats on that commission. And so what's essential for Wascana Park in terms of long-term what happens with it is an excellent relationship with the province and public engagement. We need to engage the public anything that happens. And I think part of the problem with any of the development that's happened there to date has been that there wasn't proper public engagement. And I think that's what people are outraged, because I think everyone in the city of Regina feels a sense of ownership about Wascana Park and is incredibly protective of it. There are, and I talk to many people, there are people in the city who believe that perhaps around the periphery there should be some development. And again, that would be one of those things that without public engagement, I just don't think any proper decision could be made. I'm just going to keep going through questions here. Hold on. I get asked quite a bit about, in terms of, I had said at my announcement that I believe we should be the model for reconciliation in Canada, and I keep testing that. I've had the absolute privilege and pleasure to meet with many Indigenous leaders in our community. And I would suggest that what I have learned is where reconciliation starts is in listening and understanding what their culture and their ways and their language and the way they live their life and what it is that they want for their community. It starts there. I have a tendency to want to jump to action, to jump to the reconciliation part. And I guess what I've learned so far in the last month is that what's really important is that you stop and you listen, and then you act upon the things from those learnings in partnership with them. We have reconciliation. We have a committee in the city of Regina that I don't believe much has been done yet. I think the city of Regina needs again to lead as it relates to Indigenous employment, and not just employment, but actual development into senior leadership positions. Indigenous, the Indigenous population of the city of Regina is sitting at approximately 22% and is the fastest growing segment of our city. And I think that there's a huge opportunity there, that if we create fair economic opportunity and we promote and develop their employment and their businesses, that 5 to 20 years down the road, we're going to have a significant, successful, prosperous Indigenous community. And that's what we all want. And actually, that's what the city of Regina needs. I'm just going to read another question here. I've been asked this question twice now, and I'm going to be honest in that I'm not sure I completely understand it. And the question is, what is my stance on firearm bans imposed by the Liberal federal government, especially if the federal government decides to pass off this issue to municipalities? So I tested this with the police, and firearm possession is governed by the Criminal Code of Canada, and it would not pass off to municipalities without going through the province. And that legislation is kind of locked in right now. I don't think that's going to ever end up in the near future at the municipal level, but I could be wrong. So if whoever wrote this question wanted to follow up, that would be great. But I do know that illegal guns in our city is an emerging concern, or has been a concern over the last several years. That and when I go back to supporting the RPS and what they have to deal with, that's one of those issues that crimes are getting more complicated, they're more serious, they're more organized, and they require our support in order to execute and to keep us safe. Another question that I've asked is to why ensure the police have proper funding instead of reducing their budget to save the 15%? The truth of the matter is that the City of Regina Police Service, the RPS, has had a budget that sits somewhere between 18 to 20% of the city budget, and has for a long, long time. It got down to a low of about 18% in 2012, and part of that would have been in the boom year. 2012 was one of our really great years. But it's always been sitting at about 20%. So it's not out of control relative to the city. There is a measurement that is performed across Canada for civil police services, or civic police services, which is basically police officer to population. When we compare ourselves to other municipalities, we are under the kind of Canadian national average. So this notion that we have all these police officers out on patrol simply isn't true. But more significant to me is what we're asking our police service to do. So I've been asked for my position on defund the police. I do not believe in defunding the police. And then people say, well, how do you feel about supporting them? We are asking our police service to perform things that they are neither trained for nor even falls within their purview. And that's on us as society. The job of a city, mayor, and council is to show leadership in building relationships with the province and with the federal government in delivery of programs relating to health, social services, education, as well as policing or corrections. And in the absence of dealing with that, it's not okay to say, oh, it's not my jurisdiction. That's ridiculous. These situations and concerns are happening in our city. Everything happens at the city level. And if the province has jurisdiction, I believe the province, if there was a more effective way to deliver a program, if there was a cost saving to deal with the program, and there was further harm reduction, I firmly believe that cooperation amongst those jurisdiction or interjurisdictional organizations and community organizations delivering those programs, I think that's where we start to ease the burden off our police service so that they're not dealing with some of those concerns. Oftentimes, police are going to situations to protect the health workers and the social workers in the event something's happening, because they're going to maybe a known gang house or maybe a known home where there's potentially illegal firearms have been before. That's what I think needs to be done as it relates to the Regina Police Service. If we could ease their burden up, and we're never going to do that unless we start to attack some of those underlying issues related to poverty and mental illness and addictions, and homelessness is another one. We have to start addressing the children in our at-risk community and our most vulnerable citizens. But our children, we need to get them active, we need to get them involved, and we need to make sure they've got the support, their family has supports in order to try to keep them intact. So that's kind of how I feel about the police budget per se. Let me look for another question here. I keep trying to touch it. You're going to laugh at me. I keep trying to touch the screen with my finger and scroll, and it's not working. Just to be honest. What are your stands on mandatory masks for our city? You know, I get asked this several times, so I'm going to say two things. The first is we follow the chief medical officer. Dr. Shahab has done an amazing job, as have the citizens of our province and our city, in keeping our numbers low compared to pretty much everyone else. But more than that, my daughter has a PhD in medical microbiology, and I got to tell you, I listen to her more than I listen to anyone else on this subject. And masks are important for people who are at risk. If businesses want to use masks, they should be whatever they need to do to feel safe in order to stay open for business, because I want us to stay open for business. That's what I really want. And if everybody is responsible, stay home if you're sick, stay home if you've been in contact with someone with COVID, and then for everything else, can we just be kind to one another and actually respect the people around us and what it is that they're doing? I think that's probably the answer. And in all honesty, I think the citizens of the city are fantastic. And my hat's off to you in terms of respecting that. What are your views on climate change, and how do you commit to doing improve Regina's sustainability? Okay, so climate change is real, if that's what you're asking about, what my views on it are, and how do you commit to improving Regina's sustainability? There has been a lot of work that's been done on this. There is an amazing amount of research work that's being undertaken at the University of Regina. And I think we have subject matter experts in our city. The plan continues to need, the plan for sustainability needs to continue to be developed. I think there was a vote at City Council in the last year or two on renewable by 2050. And then not much has happened since then. I think what needs to happen is I go back to subject matter experts again, between research, businesses, and then the city itself need to work together to come up with the plan that's achievable, utilizing best practices from other cities. The truth of the matter is in many respects, Regina is kind of 5 to 7 years behind a whole bunch of other cities on several issues. And if we can go to other cities and see what they're doing, keeping in mind we have a population of approximately 250,000. We're not 2 to 3 times that. But we need to go to best practices utilized in other municipalities and adopt what's been working and what hasn't worked. It's efficient, it's smart, and it's probably a way to achieve what we're trying to achieve and not waste money in the meantime. Let me scroll again for another question. What is my stance on protecting and maintaining heritage properties in Regina? Heritage